Hi. So there are some people that will genuinely reach for help when they feel like they are drowning. And the second that they are given a hand, will pull the person who gives them a hand under the water with them and drown them as well. Or use them to actually, up level themselves, push them down and get themselves a breath. So we all want somebody to step into our own hell with us, right? Like we want somebody to be in our psyche and go, yes, I see this too. So there is an aspect of all of us that wants somebody to come under the water with us before we can actually take a breath, because we don't necessarily believe in the oxygenation of the world up there, and we don't believe it's for us. We're very used to living in the underworld of ourselves. So the point of all of this is that that person also is a part of ourself that is inside of ourself that does that to ourself. So I'm going to tell you about a dream that I had last night, and I'm going to correlate this to Kelly's question. And Kelly's question is something along the lines of, I actually come from a privileged childhood, but I come from parents who were emotionally neglectful and also emotionally a little bit melancholic and volatile at the same time. And my program is depression, and I really can't get out of the reverberating effect of depression. How do I do that, right? So I had this dream last night, and dreams are so important for healing because they're not just a dream state. They are a level of consciousness. And if we take them like, oh, that's just a dream, we are disregarding that state of consciousness that is actually an expression of ourselves trying to be with us, integrate us, and teach us something. So I had this dream last night that I was eating at a table with my entire family, and it was a big like warehouse type mall setting, but it wasn't a situation that you would just come up and eat next to people. Some restaurants have those big tables and you just kind of sit down wherever with your family and eat next to people. It was not that. And there was these two, and I would classify it vibrationally, and this isn't like a negative, but as like these two gypsy type older women. They were like haggard, they were older. And you could tell that they were fishing for who was going to like be their next meal, okay? And they picked us, and my partner and I looked at each other like, okay, they're coming in. And they made all of us, and we have a family of 6, one picked one side, one picked the other, and we all moved in on their behalf. And they just started eating our food. And the codependent in me, right, is like looking around going, oh my God, I have to feed them. And like, obviously they're so afraid that they can't do it for themselves. I want to feed them. And my fiance was like, what are you doing? Like, you can't come here and eat our food. Like, we're in the middle of a family meal, right? So he has the integrity to be in himself in all situations and expect other people to also be in themselves. So I think every codependent at least needs a partner to teach us to have that kind of backbone, at least in the beginning, so we can all move forward, right? With our own sense of autonomy and backbone. And I think a lot of us also get afraid, right? We're like, oh my God, I wasn't allowed to stick up for myself in that way. So don't say that to her because that's mean. And you're like perpetrating against her because obviously she's a victim to her own circumstance and we should be feeding her and blah, blah, blah. And he was just straight up like, no, dude. And the vibration that I felt was, what was true is these women were going to get fed, whether it was me feeding them or somebody else feeding them. And the thing I didn't like about it was not that they expected it or they felt entitled to it, because I think they're entitled to be fed 100%, but it was the unappreciation for how they were gonna be fed. The feeling was they're going to manipulate anybody, they're gonna use anybody that they can to get their next meal. And they might show up really looking like, oh, I'm a victim and please help me and I'm really nice, so you should respect me and I respect you. But the truth is, the second they got fed, they were gonna bounce and they didn't give a shit who was feeding them. One, what does this sound like? What kind of person does this sound like, right? This is clearly the emotional reality of somebody who we would define as narcissistic. And I look at them and I go, oh, you feel bad for you because you don't have the food on your own and you don't know how to get it without doing these, very ineffective and hollow tactics to get it. Now, part of my work is embracing the inner narcissist for this particular reason. One, I am a little bit triggered by specifically one older person in my life who is exactly like that. And it drives me absolutely nuts. Two, I myself, and not in behavior, but in energy, have been like that, financially speaking. I was a very young mom. This is not an excuse for being this way, but it is the program, right? I did not know how I was going to get my needs met on my own. I didn't believe in myself. So I wanted, and even then I found a partner who also I essentially wanted to save, because I wanted somebody to always help me get on my feet. So I did that for him, right? And then there's a part of me that now is going, oh my God, I'm drowning because I did that. But it's not entirely true, but that is the flip-flop of the psyche, how it goes. So what I mean by I have been that is that, you know, I actually override that. I don't want people to see me like that so much that I'm normally the person who's like, no, I'm going to pay for that. Even if this person has like so much more money than me, I am the person who wants to be like, I don't want you to see that part of me, because it's so ugly to me and so vile that I will do anything to candy coat it with materialism on your behalf so that you don't see me like that. But what's really true is that, God, every time that I am engaging with somebody socially when it comes to finances, I take the hit of like, I would love it. Like, it would make me feel so much more free if you would just pay for this, so I don't have to like look at my credit card later on, right? The vibration is there. And this is where the codependent, especially codependent mothers, who we try to override what is in us and we try to be good, but the feelings are still in the underbelly that have hurt us. We're still living by them, but trying to like coat them with like niceties for our children, but they're feeling the vibrational effects of that. So my guess is a lot of my peers and my friends throughout my life have felt the vibrational effects of me being like, oh my God, please. Like, even though I'm about to pay this bill and I'm insisting on doing it, like, it would be amazing if I didn't have to. But in that way, I've been those older women going, I don't know how I'm going to necessarily get my needs met. And I'm going to covertly figure out a way to do that, but I wouldn't even receive it, right? Like, even if somebody would have said like, I'm going to do this, like, for the most part, I had some friends that I would be like, sure, hook it up. But for the most part, I would be like, no, I'm not receiving that, because I don't like pushy people. I don't like people coming in and sitting next to me and trying to take my shit. But the vibrational effects is I have been those older women not knowing how to get my needs met and wishing that I could just like be like, hey, let me take that food because God damn it, it's harder for me than it is for you. Look, I'm wobbling over here and I don't have what I need, and I have 4 kids and I have it harder than you do, and I made choices that have really screwed me up in life. Please just see that I'm struggling here so you can feed me something, right? So I had to embrace that. One, this is why I attracted this older person into my life. And 2, that those older women, when I go, I don't want, and Kelly, I'm going to get to your answer in a second. I don't want to betray these women, because I understand that they're so desperate, and they're so hollow. They don't know how to get their needs met, so they have to use people and situations to get them met. I don't want to betray them, because then they'll die, right? If I don't feed them, which is more true, is if I don't feed them, somebody else is inevitably going to feed them. But my fear is, oh my God, if they died, then it's my fault. But in my dream, I was like, actually, if they die, they just go back to source and they're free of the burden of pulling people into them. And I'm free of being pulled. And who would I be if I'm not being pulled? And who would they be if they didn't have the burden? Because I also believe that there is a level that on an energetic level, it's almost harder on the planet to be the person who is a perpetrator, because they're so hollow, they're not connected, they're not even alive, right? They're like zombies, robots. That's hard life. So I feel bad because I want to connect to them, be like, I love you, let me feed you. But having a partner who's like, no, dude, you're not staying here. It was the first time that I kind of was like, it's okay to let them go. So what does this mean subconsciously? Which is that when it comes to asking these questions about, okay, what is the programming? How do I get over this depression? How do I get over this, like, inner world which says I am actually financially so burdened that I can't get my needs met, and then externalize that in a healthy way in which I can create a kingdom outside of myself in which my needs are all completely met and I receive them when they're met. And it goes like this. And I'm going to ask everybody here, sorry it took me 10 minutes of telling you my dream to even get to this place, but who would you be if you were a person who was willing to betray your own grief? Who would I be if I was a person who was willing to betray those two older women who actually are so tired? They're so tired living inside of me. They have no idea how to get their needs met other than to be like, hey, Stace, I'm coming on in. Like, let me figure this shit out. And I have to now be like, no, dude, you're allowed to die. Like, ego death is a real thing. And I'm asking this question because I got here with a client the other day and it felt so necessary and so profound, which is, who would you be if you were a person willing to be disloyal to your own grief, to your own depression, to your own scarcity mentality? Who would you be? So I'm going to just let that percolate for a second. Who would you be if you were a person who was willing to be disloyal to your own grief, your own depression, your own scarcity mentality, your own whatever it is, your own need to help? And then my guess is you're going to say something like, oh, I would be narcissistic. I would be an asshole. I would be uncaring, right? And we don't want to be those things. I don't want to be the person who lets old ladies die. So then take it a step deeper when we go, who would I be if I was willing to do that? We have to understand all we ever wanted. And if you're here and you're still watching this, my guess is you would love somebody to come save you. And before they could save you, you would want to pull them in and be like, but first look at this. Like, look what you're really saving me from. I need you to see this because like this shit has really sucked for me. Like, you got to come in so you really know what you're saving me from. And there's another side to this water that goes like, nah, dude, I'm good. I don't need to start drowning myself to save you from that. So we want somebody, and it might be the version of us now. We want the now version of us to come into the underworld and go, I see what you see. Come on in, come on in, come on in. I'm here with you. Yeah, this shit sucks. Let's get out together, right? But the now version of us is the us that's going, hey, let me pull your hand up. I see you drowning. Just come on up. Come on up. We don't need to be in there anymore, right? But we feel disloyal to the underworld itself when we leave it, because that has been our identity. And when we betray our own grief, our own depression, our own scarcity mentality, we betray the version of ourselves that was the foundation that got us to this point, right? And we don't want to betray that because it was foundational. We survived. It got us here. And we loved a lot of the external world through that way of being. So it feels disloyal to betray our own grief by saying, I know what you are. I love you. And I'm no longer loyal to you. I'm loyal to me. Right? I'm no longer loyal to my depression. I don't need other people to be, because also, what do you think about people who aren't loyal to your grief? What do you think about people who aren't loyal to your depression? What do you think about people who aren't loyal to the fact that you are in scarcity? They feel so far out of reach. And you're like, well, you don't love me if you can't see this. And some people, which is taking me a really long time and a really lot of frustration to deal with, some people actually just are disloyal to your grief because they actually love you. And that, when we're in that hellish space, we're like, oh my God, if you really love me, you'd come on in and you'd save me instead of like make me wait for like have to swim on my own a day longer because can't you see I've been doing this shit my whole life? So I'm going to leave you with that we are often afraid to leave those programs because we don't want to be disloyal to the things that have been coping mechanisms and got us through up until this point, and that makes perfect sense psychically. but it doesn't make sense energetically. So for me to release those two women who are an exact replica of my scarcity mentality and go, it's okay if you die, doesn't mean I don't love you. It means that actually you can be released into the light in a way in which it doesn't hurt you anymore to have to exist. And then I can be free of having to worry about you, right? This is classic codependency going on inside of myself. I don't want to be disloyal to them. I want to feed them. But if I feed them, it's taking something away from me. And the me today is a stronger person than I was years ago, who would just feed them and be like, oh, you can take my last bits of food. And strangely, even still, you can take food away from my own children because we know we'll be able to handle it. Well, guess what? Those people in my dream knew how to handle it. They knew how to get their food met, and they didn't give a shit where it was coming from. They were going to get it with or without me. And that's something I had to get really clear on, that it wasn't about me. They were going to get their needs met anywhere. And the second that I left them, they weren't going to take it personally, really. It was going to be like, yeah, she's an asshole. She ain't giving me what I want. I'm going to go throw a temper tantrum, have a smear campaign out against her, whatever. She's not giving me what I want. So, but in the end, it doesn't matter because I'm going to go get what I want anyway. And I'm just going to try to hurt her in the process for not giving it to me. But those people get what they want. And we have to understand that in some level of our lives, whether it's emotionally, psychically, intellectually, whatever it is, we are those people in some area of our lives. And that is what I would encourage you to look at emerging into. The part of yourself that you go, okay, how am I actually that person who's like looking for something I don't think that I can get on my own? So I'm energetically trying to take it from somebody else. Or I'm trying to get fed by somebody else because like, I don't believe that I can do it. And the shit is so hard. And I just want somebody to see how hard it's been for me. And it's hard. Being a human's hard. The shit sucks, right? But we opted in. And now we have to really opt in. A lot of us are like, I'd rather blow my brains out than get rid of that old identity because that's all I know, right? Sure, blow your mind, but do it without killing your physical body. Blow your brains out energetically where you go, okay, I'm willing to be the person who's not drowning in my loyalty to the underworld. Okay? I hope this was helpful for you, all of you, because I think it's big for all of us. And I want you to get, like, ego death is a real thing. It's a real thing. And it feels like a death. And then we are born again into a new life. And then we go, oh my God, how do I walk here? I don't know how to walk in this world. And there's turbulence there. It's tricky. But that's the world that we are choosing to be resurrected into by opting to have the death itself. I hope you guys have an awesome day. Bye.